I had an opportunity last night to last night I attended the Board of Mental Health meeting, and what I found was yesterday my phone did not stop ringing off the hook with parents from the West Geauga School District and Cardinal District, and I probably had, I'd say probably close to 30 parents come into the store last evening, and it was not pleasant. And as I learned what was going on, I became extremely disturbed with this, and I found it necessary last night to attend the Board of Mental Health. And to give you a little bit of background here, what I found was that the school boards in the schools in Geauga County, not private schools, but the public schools, because I contacted Notre Dame to see if my daughter was going to be involved in any of this, and they said they had absolutely no idea of any of this, and that they wouldn't participate in this type of a thing. But what happened was there's a survey that is being done with the children in our public schools from grade 6 through 12. There's also a survey that is going to be conducted on Friday at Berkshire for children for 4th grade and 5th grade of a separate type of survey from what I was told this morning from another parent, that she said they have not yet given her the survey and they're concealing this from her, but the fact that they are supposedly doing this with 4th and 5th graders. And I was able to get a hold of this survey yesterday, and I was absolutely appalled to some of the questions that were in the survey. Questions such as, I think I am overweight. A doctor said that I'm overweight.
Where are you?
This would be on one of the back pages. But more than anything, is that
Ecstasy.
this is giving out to 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds that basically say these questions ask about your feelings and experience in other parts of your life.
Carried a handgun.
Think of your 4 best friends, tried beer, used marijuana, used LSD, carried a handgun. Does that sound familiar, carried a handgun? When we just had a major incident in one of our public schools, and about 3 years ago, this same type of survey was circulated into public schools, which probably included Chardon. Okay? Now, what I'm telling you is this, is that these questions to a 10-year-old, if you told a 10-year-old, I've heard that parents buy Christmas presents and keep them in the kitchen cupboards until Christmas. Where do you think that 10-year-old and 11-year-old is probably going to go and look when you're not looking? Kitchen cupboards.
Yeah.
So when you're putting questions out like this,
plant the seed.
On how many occasions have you drunk 1 or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage during the past 30 days? And then it goes on to say 0 occasions, 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 8 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 39, 40 or more. So how about taking it to the next one? How many occasions have you sniffed glue? Breathed the contents of an aerosol spray can or inhaled other gases or sprays in order to get high in your lifetime? How about this one? Used prescription drugs not prescribed to you in your lifetime. How about go to the medicine cabinet and start eating some of your parents' pills or your grandparents' pills? How about use bath salts to get high in your lifetime?
Bath salts.
Is this what we want our kids to be susceptible to?
Well, I think this is disturbing.
Well,
Sometimes
let me add on to that, because I was also at the meeting last night, and this is being put out through the Mental Health Board.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let me finish. So hang on 1 second, because I've got a full. So
right to beat up on people.
So basically,
start the fight.
It goes into even suicide. Sometimes I think life is not worth it.
That's disturbing.
all in all, I'm inclined to think that I am a failure.
Oh,
What are we? It's all right to beat up people if they start to fight. I think it's okay to take something without asking. It is important to be honest with your parents, even if they become upset. I think sometimes it's okay to cheat at school. What I'm saying to you is this, is that children, and I'm not here as a psychiatrist, I'm not here as a psychologist, I'm not here as a mental health professional, but I am here with over 20 years in the background of being in law enforcement. And I am here as a parent, and I am here as a county commissioner, that I have a right and a duty to the residents of this county, and I have a right and a duty to the people that have been calling my phone constantly, showing up at my door, leaving me 3 notes at the house yesterday when I got home, and finding them on my door when I got home from the mental health meeting last night. But more than that, what was disturbing is, as I'm sitting in this mental health board meeting, the mental health board, that this board is responsible to putting 8 of the 6 people on, were never given a copy of this survey. They were never shown this survey. When this issue was brought up, I asked, "Have you seen the survey?" One member on that board says, "No, I haven't, and I really don't want to see it." I told him to step outside and resign, because if that's what his position is, then that's not what we want for a board member. We are entrusting in that board to do this. Fortunately enough, and a pat on the back to the commissioners that are currently sitting on this board, two of the newest members of that board identified that there was a problem, and were able to start to take some action to be able to put the forward press of trying to get this stopped.
This is incredible.
This is ridiculous, and I want to leave this with this word here. When I called for Jim Adams' resignation for all the problems that he had with the dollars and cents, was very minimal, to the point of that man continuing to push this type of garbage into our schools. And I'll take it one step further. I spent almost an hour and a half yesterday afternoon on a conference call with the creator of this exam out of Georgia, okay? And you know what the end result was?
What?
The end result is that they do this to receive grant money. The worse the results are, the more money they get. And the creator of this himself, I believe his name was Leeton, the creator himself said this is a money grab survey so that they can gauge how much more money they can get from grants. I also have an email from an individual from the Board of Mental Health, not from the board, but rather from one of the employees, that clearly states in there that the primary reason for this is to receive grants, to utilize to receive grants. If we are poisoning our kids to receive grants, we need to get our priorities straight. Mental health needs to get their priorities straight. The Board of Mental Health needs to get their priorities straight of a director that is putting this garbage into the hands of our students. And I'll take it even one step further. You know what the waiver is for this? When the kids get a waiver, it is so manipulative. The parents would, when kids can opt out of this. The parents can opt out for their parents. But they have to send in a signature to say they don't want their kid to take this. If that kid never gets the paperwork, or the parents don't receive that, guess what? Your kid is taking that survey because they don't have a paper. How about turning it around to the point that says you have to have consent to take a survey? I don't agree with this survey to begin with, but I'm saying this is all underhanded, undermining tactics. And at the end of the day, our kids are being poisoned with this stuff, and more than anything, our parents are being swindled and their kids are going to school and experiencing this. So with that being said, I've drafted a letter, and it says, "Dear Mr. Student, from Director of Jobs and Family Services."
Who's Mr. Student?
He's the director from Greg Student.
Greg is?
Greg,
No.
I'm sorry.
It's not student, right?
Swenson, Craig
Oh,
Swenson.
I think you got to change that.
And I'll
name
change
there.
that.
Yeah.
Craig Swenson,
not
yeah.
student.
Craig Swenson from the Director of Jobs and Family Services. The survey for the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students that the Geauga County Mental Health Board is checking to disseminate to Geauga County schools is extremely problematic and raises serious concerns. While many Geauga County law enforcement, juvenile judge, and prosecutors are fighting to limit the juvenile drug use in our county, this survey suggests and provides a roadmap to 4th, 5th, and 6th graders with respect to dangerous and unlawful drug activities. It is highly unlikely that the 4th to 6th graders know about huffing aerosol or sniffing glue, yet the survey introduces these young students to such illicit and dangerous activities. Because of youthful curiosity, it is likely that some of the students introduced to such illicit activities will pursue glue sniffing and huffing, essentially expanding the already growing youth drug problem. Why would our county mental health board introduce our youth to other means of dangerous drugs use in a survey? The survey also contains questions that introduce on private parent-child relationships of our county residents. For what purpose? There's a number of these in there, of personal issues.
Well, I would wonder that the health thing would be, an outright. You're not supposed to find out.
Exactly.
I mean,
The
isn't there a
confidentiality
law?
of the
Isn't there a
survey
HIPAA
is
law
also
that would be-
suspect. While the student does not place her
Many of
his
these
or her
questions
name
you can't ask
on the
unless
survey.
you're asking, unless you have a parent present and the parent's
Right.
given permission.
Correct.
Because some of this stuff is
The
admitting
HIPAA
that
law-
you're breaking the law.
That
I smoke
HIPAA law
marijuana.
would be
You
violated.
can't do that. It's not HIPAA. That has to do with
Just
the law of having a minor
A minor
ask
answer
questions outside of the parent without the parent's involvement or the parent's awareness.
This
And so this document, I believe, is child abuse.
So it says here, the confidentiality of the survey is also suspect. While the student does not place his or her name on the survey, each survey is individually numbered at the bottom. If someone maintaining a list as to which student is given a specific numbered survey. The waiver process for parents is also seriously flawed. A parent must take affirmative action to preclude their children's participation in the survey. Some children may not have even taken the waiver home. According to mental health, they paid for postage, sent stamps for them to mail it. If they didn't get it in the mail, their kid is going to be taking this. At a minimum, the survey process should be carefully explained to all parents, and a signed permission slip signed by a parent should be a mandatory prerequisite before a student takes the survey. Finally, the survey contains some questions that invade the privacy of parents' homes and have no academic purpose. For example, an inquiry into a parent's gun ownership or the number of guns in a home is way out of bounds and smacks of some illicit governmental motive. The right of gun ownership is protected constitutional. Neither our schools nor the county mental health board have any right to the private gun ownership information. Moreover, using our children to obtain such information on their parents for some highly questionable government or sociological purpose is just plain wrong. Apparently, the main purpose of the survey is for use to pursue grant or other funding. Our students should not be manipulated and our families' privacies invaded for government economic purposes. I was appalled to have attended the meeting on the 10th of December to learn that none of the board members had seen or read the survey and that the survey was put out without their approval and just handled directly from the director and his staff. I strongly urge the board to review the conduct of the director and feel that fast and firm action is taken to put fail-safes and policies in place to control the aggressive and potentially illegal and liable actions that his decisions are putting our county in. Furthermore, the concern goes way beyond liability, but rather child safety and welfare. In light of these problems, I respectfully demand that all efforts to distribute the survey to the Geauga students cease immediately. The proper procedure should have included a committee consisting of representatives of our schools, parent-teacher organizations, jobs and family services, juvenile court, and other youth-involved groups to review this survey and survey process so that the rights of parents and students in our county adequately protected. I take a strong stand on this horrific and irresponsible action of putting out this survey and I refuse to sit on my hands and allow our children to be poisoned by such material. I have a duty to the people of this county in this position I hold and officially move to formally request the Director of Jobs and Family Services accept this letter as an official complaint and ask that an investigation be opened to uncover the safety and welfare that the Director of Mental Health, Mr. Jim Adams, has put the children and families at risk. Respectfully, Ralph Spitaleri. So with that, I ask that,
I have
Mary,
one.
if
I
you
have
would
one
like
question.
to join on with this
Yeah,
situation.
I would like to join on, but I have a question, and I don't know if this is out of naivety or what. Okay, and I ask all of you to think with me. When you were younger, and you're going to have to go back to the time when you were when I was in 4th grade, I was 8 years old. And I want to tell you, when I was 8 years old, when I'm reading this, I didn't know what any of that meant.
Exactly.
I don't even know if I understood a lot about life at that time. And I'm going to tell you honestly, maybe by the time you reached junior high, you started to understand a few things, or you learned a few things. And this is my question. I am not a mental health professional, and I am not a teacher in the lower grades. How much do our children know today in response to what we knew? I mean, I've watched the commercials, and I am horrified. There was one commercial in particular I couldn't believe. I mean, I wouldn't even know what all that stuff meant. But that is being hit with our kids. How much do our 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds do know? I mean, I don't want to sound like I really don't know unless I sat down and asked them. But, to put this, like, I think Ralph's got a point here. When you tell a kid that the Christmas presents are in the kitchen, under the kitchen sink, or they're in the back porch locked up, that's where my mother used to put them, and I knew they were there. I mean, I walked in the porch, that's the way I got into the house, and the packages were all there. So what did you do? You opened them. And when Christmas morning came, it was, I saw this already. But I mean, that's a simplistic point of view, but I got to agree with you, Ralph. I mean, if my child or my grandchild came home with this, I'd be horrified.
Well, and the biggest thing is the concealed position.
I don't think that's anybody's position.
Hidden agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, there was in history, there was a man in history that got a hold of where all the guns in the country were. And when it came time to take over that nation, he found out where they all were, and he took those guns away from those people, and they couldn't even protect themselves. And you all know who that was. And Hitler had it down.
If you don't mind, I was at the meeting last night, and by the way,
this is upsetting.
Ralph's letter was very good, and his approach I fully endorse. Somebody needs to look into this, because if the thing that stunned me the most about being at the board meeting
who approved this?
was that the board, who's supposed to be overseeing, we appoint board members.
Exactly.
And thank God we appointed 2 good board members who are willing to step up to the situation. But the board is supposed to be providing oversight to Jim Adams and others. The attitude that was expressed was one of arrogance when we brought these up and we brought reasonable questions to the table.
Well, that's why my question is, how much do our young kids know? How much are we naive to understand that they're not as moxie in their...
But that's an immaterial question relative to what Ralph was pointing out, because if that were the case, if in fact we're trying to survey to find out where our kids are, then that survey should not be given to us through a federal organization who has an agenda we don't understand.
They should come to the parent.
And they should be driven and guided by professionals in this county who understand what our unique issues are. The motivation for doing this was not to help our kids, and that question was asked last night, and I asked that question. The motivation was something else, because the mental health board's charge is not to go out there and fix our schools. It's a different charge. It's a different agenda.
I don't think the schools would.
And so, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about this, and I applaud Mr. Spitaleri for raising this. in getting this conversation going. I mean, there were a number of citizens at the meeting last night. It was a short notice
I
kind
didn't
of a
even
thing.
know about this.
And so a number of us
I didn't
attended.
know about this.
I
So-
got hammered yesterday.
I mean, I
And it was,
can't imagine.
it was stunning the lack of professionalism that I saw exhibited at that board last night. It was just stunning.
Well, like I said, I think it's important to understand, are they, if this is all about money-based, or is this about an issue that they see that's so constantly up and that we're just out of touch with
Yesterday,
reality?
The founder of this was asked, and the question came up is that why would we not put together a survey based on positive values?
Right.
And he said, we would never be able to make money. I would never be able to make money doing that. He says, and he even agreed on the conversation. He says, I agree that would probably be the better approach, but we would never be able to sell that. Nobody wants to read good news. They want to read bad news. And unfortunately, what he's basically saying is, let's poison these kids so I could get fat and rich.
That's what they're doing, is they're poisoning their minds with information that
Absolutely.
they really don't need to have.
Absolutely.
Asking questions concerning...
Well, if you want your children to have
laboratory-
understanding, you want it to be brought to them in a way that they understand
By
the
the parents,
negativities
though.
of drug use, the negativities of these kinds of things. But, their principles and the way they believe in. I mean,
And this
why
was-
do you send your child where you send them?
Right.
Because
And-
you're looking for values
Right.
today.
This
We're
destroys
looking
that
for
naivete.
values.
A young person's mind is not prepared.
It's not ready.
It is not reached the level yet where it can even understand some of these concepts.
And
by the way, the results, one of the comments made last night was, well, we are gauging how our county is doing based on the results for this. Well, if you read the test, you've got a copy of the test. Which student do you think is going to be honest on that test? Yeah, I smoke marijuana. And so can you trust the results of the test based on the design of the test? There's so many flaws in this whole survey process that, again, it is something that we need to deal with, and I applaud Ralph for bringing this up.
And I think that once again, we need to call for action. We need to get the media to take a stand on this. We need the people to be able to finally, once and for all, get to the point that we get to the source, we get to the bottom of this, of getting final control of an organization that has been out of control, continues to be out of control, and how many prices of lives and how many prices of potential dangers do we have to continue to put our kids in before something else changes? And I'm not one to sit here and just wait for the next incident to happen in one of our schools, or the next child to die of an overdose because of the fact that at fifth grade he's taken a survey that all of a sudden he gets home from school and runs up to the medicine cabinet and says, I wonder what this will make me feel like if I eat all these blue pills or green pills or yellow pills. What's that going to do to what do we need that to finally take a change, or do we need to be proactive? And we have a responsibility as parents. We have a responsibility as public officials. We have a responsibility as a humane society to stop this, and it's got to stop. Ms. Jones.
Sadly, about 6 weeks ago, there was a very excellent, poorly attended seminar put on by a federal agent named Hill, and I can't remember his name. Robert Hill. And we expected, it was sponsored by Ravenwood, we expected it to be packed. And there was nobody. There were a handful of people that attended it, and it was very, very informative from the standpoint that it indicated the unwitting dangers of prescription drugs that parents do have around. And the statement was made, and this is an agent who he stayed over an hour and a half past his time to answer questions from the few that were there. And the stipulation was that there are more deaths from prescription drugs that are not prescribed than from any other cause, including the heroin problem. And so I think that there should be a recognition that there is a problem, but the conversation has to start back down at the household level. And it was absolutely unacceptable that with all the tables that were set up at Notre Dame, there were perhaps 20 people in attendance, including some trustees from other Geauga counties. So the recognition has to be there that we...
Did they actually give these surveys out already?
From what I understand,
Yeah,
told
it's
us
supposed to
that
go out
their
tomorrow.
is already completed on their
No, West G is supposed to start this Monday.
So they've
Okay,
given
we
it
heard
to all
yesterday,
7
or
schools.
tomorrow.
And Berkshire is supposed to start on Friday, and Cardinal is supposed to start next week.
Now, as a result of the intervention
I guess
at
we're
last
really-
night's meeting, that process has been interrupted, correct?
Well,
Yes.
and I can tell you this: I was pretty disturbed at the fact of the, let's just go around the question 5 times. I will do my best to try to make contact with the people. No, if you're the one that is mandating that this test is supposed to be taken, then you call these schools and you tell them until further notice, all of this is stopped. And my position is I'm going to get this, and I apologize for the thing was
Well,
in
I
my
would like to
autocorrect
have
from when we
this.
had that.
Yeah.
Craig was in my
Yeah.
thing from
Yeah.
Water Resources.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
Craig Swenson who's going to receive this. I'm going to have a conversation with him. But if he feels the need that he wants me to, or if he feels the need to go to it, to even go as far as to get to a judge, to have a court order issued to stop this, it needs to stop. And there are many issues in this that are 100% just poison. And the fact of the matter is in my time here, I was not serving on this board when this test occurred 3 years ago. Every 3 years is when they do
I've
these
never
tests.
seen this.
And
never seen
my
this.
position is that this is bad. Parents and I guess I call to the media on this, is that the media needs to be able to put some of this information out there so that people, when parents see these questions, parents have no idea. They don't even make it available. It says in the form to call Linda Miller at the Board of Mental Health. You know what she tells you? You'll have to. We don't give out copies. They're very elusive around that whole thing. You have to go to the school and look at the test. They don't give it to you. So as busy as people's schedules are, as hard as sometimes it is with all the different events with kids and this and that, all this other stuff going on, you're to take that is their direct point, is to basically tell you to go to school. So you have to try to figure all this out on your own. The way that this is put in, it smells, it stinks, I don't like it. They basically put this in there in the most deceitful way possible to basically trick parents, and I'm not going to stand for it. This is wrong, and it's wrong. That's it.
Did you contact Mr. Coloma? He's the superintendent for the schools.
Okay, I did not.
County.
I talked to Matt Galomo. I'd like to go to talk to Matt about it because he's a superintendent, and then from there work down to the other 7
I
superintendents.
know, I was looking to see
and
if
discuss it
Carl
because
there.
they do
This guy there?
have power
It
over the
pulled in, but he
schools.
lost the
I mean, they have.
Yeah.
And the problem, the thing that I'm not going to sit there and listen to this fantasy land, hypothetical statistical nonsense that Mr. Adams wants to try to basically, that's great for Star Trek. We're talking about our kids. And all of your results and all of your statistical information and data that you're talking about, that's got nothing to do with what our point is here. Our point is, we don't like this, we want it stopped. I would not have gotten bombarded with all the questions, and people don't know where to go. There's a feeling of distrust. There's a feeling of of just everybody is kind of all intermingled. Nobody wants to take the unpopular position and expose this. Nobody wants to go out on a limb and put this problem out there. I have no issues with that. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And this is wrong. And these parents have to be able to have a spot that they can have a voice in this. And this is and for our administrators to be able to think that this is right. And when you talk to the owner of this company, and I ask anybody to give him a call, when he can basically sit there and say it's all about the money, at the end of the day, we're basically selling our kids.
Well, I think it's inappropriate. Obviously, it's inappropriate. And if they wanted to take a survey, they should have discussed it with the superintendents, and they should have then spoke to the
and they claim
families and sent letters to the families, discussed it with them before they ever started in this. And I have to agree with you. I would be terribly upset if my grandchildren got this, and they are at the age like your daughter.
So, question: Do the local board of educations get
It's
to
the local
review
board of
this before
education.
these are issued to the
Yeah,
students?
I would go there.
Supposedly, according to the question was asked last night, and they said that the boards all approved of this. All the board of educations were 100% made aware of this. Everybody was on board with this. That this wasn't something that they just basically sent to the school. Then the whole part of the step, the stamps were sent to them to be able to disperse.
I'm going to check that. This is like, okay. Then again, I go back in my own experience. We never had sex education in school. And I know a friend of mine who teaches fifth grade.
It just wasn't a formal class, is what you're saying.
Well, you're right. We learned it, right.
It's like a vocational thing.
Now wait, let me, I have a friend who's a fifth grade teacher, and she told me she taught that. Now there's a way of teaching it, and there's a way of teaching it. But there's some places that really get into things that you don't want to, aren't appropriate. I think that's where this has gone. This has gone there.
So if these tests, this particular test, has been administered before,
I've never seen it.
I mean, that would be an important thing to verify.
The exact
every
kind
3
of
years
test?
they do this?
Yep.
Yes,
To
that's
the same,
what
to the same
kind?
grade level? What grades
The
is that?
same level, the same.
The
I
same
haven't seen the pattern.
6 to 12. 6 to 12
Yeah.
graders. That's
Oh,
what
well,
we
this
know.
is 4 to 6.
There's actually
4 to 6.
from what I talked to a parent from Berkshire, she told me this morning that her daughter is going to be taking a test that in a variable form than this, and this is the reason I was late today. I was working on this. I had this phone call that I couldn't let go of her. She was explaining to me that there's a different test, similar type, with a different format of questions. I haven't been able to confirm that or deny that.
Well,
but
if this
that's
went
what
to
they
a
were
high
given
school
to
kid.
fourth and fifth. But this is 6 to 12.
Oh, this is 6 to 12.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so that's a little
Okay,
different.
but the problem for me is that if this has been going on, all right, how many parents did not know about it? How many kids did not come home and communicate that idea? And not
Absolutely.
all kids do. But if it's been going on and this is a regular part of the curriculum, then the problem does rest with boards of education.
It's boards of education.
When your mental health board had no idea that this was going on, I have a feeling that there was probably other board of education, not to throw them under the bus, because I don't think that they
didn't
probably know about
No.
it
They
either.
didn't read it.
Well,
They just
I'm
didn't-
going to talk to
put it
Matt
out.
Dilemma and the other superintendents. I want to go right to where
It just
these
is
are
at the
people
point that
responsible.
the bottom line is this: is we need to get a new director in mental health, and I don't have a problem saying that point blank. And I really don't care what people think about that. It comes down to is we need a new director that stops to try to be dictatorial as far as taking this stuff and basically beyond his board of putting this garbage out there. His board had no idea. I would have a real problem sitting on a board that I've got to listen. My feeling is this: if the dog bites you the first time, it's the dog's fault. Second time, it's yours. if he failed to advise them of something of this nature and something as crazy as that, what else is he not telling them? You know, what else is he not telling them?
Well, I want to find out from the Board of Education. I definitely do. Definitely.
It's just, I mean, you know, it's crazy. We have to trust our people in our positions of trust. If we have people that we can't trust in positions of trust, we have an absolute destruction of society. Bottom line. And I'm not some black helicopter in the sky theory, you know, conspiracy guy. I'm just telling you, it's just ABCs of everyday life. You've got to be able to trust the person in that seat. And if the board there had no idea of this information, how could they trust him on anything he says? You know, it's ridiculous.
Well, I want to see the survey for the 4th graders. I want to know exactly what they did with this and what exactly happened after that. Get all that. Unbelievable.
I think it's great you brought this to everyone's attention.
Yeah.
No,
and the boards of education rotate too. You know,
right.
They change.
Yeah, but we've had the same superintendents though. They've been in place for many, many years because I know that. I mean, other than Jane Heyman leaving. Okay, and then the Newberry guy left there for a while. I mean, they may have different ones. DeLong's been there. You know, I remember, and I know Matt Glenwell's been there for at least 17 years.
And look at the survey, by the way, just as a little side note. Look, there's a little asterisk. I think it's on the first page. It talks about that this test is part of the Common Core investigation, whatever standards to implement Common Core. So this just tells you, and if our schools are in favor of that, we have issues, and we need to be talking to our superintendents and our boards, and discovering where they're at on this stuff.
And actually, those results should be tabulated and available.
And I understand that, but we're taxpayers.
I know.
I pay taxes. You pay taxes.
Exactly, and I've been paying for these schools for years.
And I pay for private school. Right. But I should have a say also, because the same people that are going to those private schools still have influence on my child that I'm sending to a private school.
Oh, yeah, because it's the society. It happens in the community.
Ralph, if this is administered every 3 years, we should be able to get a
the
copy of the results from the last time.
They have the results. And
we do.
And it was a big song and dance that they're saying, well, drugs have gone down and all this stuff has gone down. And there are all these... Okay, so we had the worst epidemic of heroin that we had last year, the highest record number of deaths last year. So at the end of the day, your results just based on just the fatality rate is skewed. You know, we don't have all the issues that we have in Chardon High School with the amount of drugs that are being done. Within the last 3 years, we had a Chardon school shooting where kids died. So if at the end of the day, their results of what they're trying to say have gone down, how about this? How about all these questions here of basically continuously implementing carrying guns in schools? Could that have been a direct correlation to potentially something that happened in this county? Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to throw bullets out there to say this or this or this. But at the end of the day, it comes down to is what else did something like this spark in the curiosity of a child's mind to be able to do this? To be able to possibly take an act on what he's reading in something like this.
But as far as violence and things, I mean, you go back in history, and you go back just to the 19th century, the turn of the century, it was pretty violent. Everyone had guns and they're all killing each other. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Violence has been in place. You can go back to the 15th, 16th century and you can look at the Tudor dynasty. I mean, they didn't even waste time. They just chopped everybody's heads off. I mean, arrogance and cruelty has been with us. We've seen it with Stalin. We've seen it with Mao Zedong. We've seen it with Hitler. We've seen it with all of these people that were vicious and they did horrible things to people. Stalin was the worst. And, you know, Patton wanted to go in and take them right out. But what did we do? Oh, let's not do that. So what happened? Russia just got stronger.
And it's been an issue in schools for the last 20 years since Columbine.
Been bad.
Well, and one more thing
we tried to protect our children. Obviously, we were very conservative community. We want to protect our children.
Right.
We want the best for them. And this incites you. That's why you're angry, Ralph. You're very conservative. You know, we are conservative. We don't want bad things to happen to our kids. Unfortunately.
Well, and one other thing too is I had a conversation actually with a newer member from one of the school boards that had called me.
Yeah.
And
good.
She basically told me, she said, I've been getting a lot of these calls. I'm turning to you because I don't know where to go with this. But she basically said, she says, she's in a position where, you know, she doesn't know how to basically go the other route. It's just basically, you know, public opinion of just everybody else is just going to go along with it, so everybody else just goes along with it. My direct contact to her was to say, you've got to do what's right, you know. And I understand it's not always comfortable. It's not comfortable to be in this position to call somebody out on stuff like this. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. And the problem is like, you know, Mary knows some people, Dave, you know some people on those school boards. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes they just don't want to go against the grain, and they just say yes, you know. Yeah. And I strongly doubt that a lot of these parents even saw these questions.
Yeah.
So with that, Christine, we need to make a motion on, and I apologize, Heidi, because I didn't make a motion on your budget.